Nick Alberga from the Leafs Nation and Leafs Morning Take joins us on the show. First off, that picture you have of Rosie behind you is so good.
Classic, right? How good is that?
That is really good. The flow on Rosie, tremendous. All right, let's start with again maybe a bit of a basic one, because last night was a great night for Leafs fans. Optimism is really high right now, but I want to know what you're seeing that's different from a team coached by Craig Berube that the Leafs weren't getting when they were coached by Sheldon Keefe.
Well, first and foremost, guys, I think it's consistency. Like it's pretty interesting that the last couple of years, the Leafs have been one of the better teams in the NHL statistically in the regular season. But on any given night, you had no clue which Maple Leafs team was going to show up. And so far, so good through 6 games in this season. Every game they showed up, they started on time. Pardon the cliches, but they're playing this like physical north-south type brand of hockey where it's like a grind and it's less skill and more just like go to work and get the lunch pail out, which I think is kind of cool. It's not as fun to watch. They're grinding it out a bit more, but I think on a shift by shift basis, it's got like a bit of a different feel in terms of the way they want to play and the style they want to play right now.
Johnny?
I mean, I couldn't agree more, but I also do disagree partially on last night. I thought last night's game was insanely fun to watch, but maybe that's because I had the Leafs to win the President's Trophy this year, so I was kind of laughing it up a little bit last night. But I think that second line of McMahon, Domi, and Nylander, they were flying last night. I mean, those three were unbelievable.
Yeah, I said it on today's show. Like in general, I thought the Leafs bullied the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is weird to say because how many times has Tampa just took it to Toronto in recent memory, including the Stanley Cup playoffs? But in general, Johnny, I would say the top 6 is looking really, really nice right now. You got Nyes, Matthews, and Martin on the top line. Then McMahon with Domi and Nylander, I think just bringing a bit of a different look. I love the speed factor. They scored a big-time goal on the forecheck last night. Like Bob McMahon goes from a guy who was healthy scratch in the season opener, and now he's been producing offense game in and game out. So it just gives the Leafs a bit of a different look. And I think it's quite noticeable early on what Craig Berube is trying to do line-wise, and that's spread the wealth. That's why you're seeing like a John Tavares and a Max Pacioretty play together on the third line. I think it just opens up a different dynamic when you're getting goal scoring up and down your lineup the way they've been producing early on in this season.
Willie Nylander looked exceptional last night. Joe's in the chat says Nylander could have had 3. We played the percentage game a couple of minutes ago. Let me throw one your way. Percent chance William Nylander can be a 100-point player for the Leafs. Had 98 last season.
Yeah, I would probably say 85 to 90%. Wow. I obviously have to leave a little room for injury and stuff like that. But I think the way he is playing right now, it's really, really good news. Like if you want to correlate it to what's happening in Vancouver right now with Elias Pettersson, who once again looks disinterested. I think it's easy to get paid in this league, but once you get paid, how do you play? I think early returns so far in the Nylander contract have been outstanding. I thought he was good in the select games he played in the playoffs. I think he's had a really good start. He's getting better and better as the game goes by. So I think there's a high percent chance, 85 to 90. If he can stay healthy here, he gets to 100 points this season finally.
Mm-hmm. And Johnny, do you have another one?
Well, I was just going to say if the Leafs get their power play going a little bit more, there's no doubt. He's flirted with it, I feel like, the past couple of years, right? Like Nylander's been above a point per game, I think, 3 years in a row? That's
exactly it. It's interesting because even last year he was on pace before he signs the contract. I think he was on pace for 117, 119 points. All of a sudden signs the contract, went to the skids a bit, but found his way late in the season. But just to piggyback off your point on the power play, I think you guys have the luxury of covering 2 teams who more times than not have pretty damn good power plays. This Leafs power play is quickly becoming a story, I think, for the wrong reasons. I think they're fortunate. They're playing a really good brand 5-on-5 and winning hockey games and getting saves. But to me, guys, and maybe you can speak to this, it makes no sense how you have that much star power and you're really, really struggling. They're 3 for 17 or 3 for 20, on the power play so far this season.
The Oilers are one of 3 teams in the NHL that have fewer than 2 power play goals to start the year. It's like crazy. The Ducks, and I think maybe I forget the third team, but
the Sabres and Ducks have not scored a power play goal yet.
Yeah, so it's the Sabres.
Sabres are over 21 on the year.
Jeez,
wild! It's wild. Last one I
have.
Philip
Gustafsson has a power play goal.
True.
It's actually a really good point. Last one I had for you was just on Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I was really impressed with last night. It is wild to think back, and I mean the roller coaster his career's been. Vancouver pays a boatload to get him, sign him, big deal. And then they're buying him out. And it's kind of like, man, is he going to be out of the NHL right away? Just a few years after signing a massive ticket, goes to Florida. It was a bit of a reclamation project, and it works out really well. And then he signs in Toronto, and it's kind of like, okay, they paid him, and can he repeat what he did in Florida? He is off to a flying start.
He is. You got to be very careful. Obviously, we're just 6 games into this thing, but the track record is certainly there last year. Like, I think the individual who deserves the most credit here is Paul Maurice, unequivocally. If you watch the second half of last season, into the Stanley Cup playoffs, into the Stanley Cup final, night and day the difference you are seeing in Oliver Ekman-Larsson's game. I think the bonus right now is that he's providing offense. He's running the first power play unit, but physically, to me, has been the big story. If you guys recall, early on in his career, he was a number 1 defenseman for the Coyotes, known as more of a softer player, really didn't engage contact. It's been the absolute difference on Toronto's back end so far. I mean, even the hit last night, I know he just got fined $5,000 for the hit on Gensel, but just the snarl he's playing with, the physicality, like the tenacity, it's been a breath of fresh air for the Maple Leafs blue line, because I think people knew to an extent what they were getting, but how complete his game is what really has impressed me thus far. He's consistently playing more minutes than, Morgan Rielly and others on that back end. It's been a really, really good signing thus far here.
Nick, appreciate your time as always. You can find his work on the Leafs Nation YouTube with Leafs Morning Take and online at theleafsnation.ca. Nick, thanks, man.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.